Do your clappage. That's not how you clap. That was something. Psych yourself up, get all kind of energy, summon the dark lord into your soul. And welcome to the only geriatric gaming channel in the known universe, the Age of Gamers. I am one of your hosts, Widied.
And Pfarcus. The P is silent.
And what are we talking about today, my good man?
Today we are going to talk about the games that we are playing.
That's right, folks. The games we're playing. The most important people that you're watching right now. And so we're going to do this kind of a thing. It's like a mini review because it takes a lot of time to make reviews, people. And so we're going to try to do one a month, but we want this to get this out there because we actually do play more than one game every month. So, and I kind of want to talk about some of the other games that I play as well as this Pfarcus. So that's what this is about. We're just going to basically do kind of here's what we're playing. This is why you should or shouldn't. It's not, we both didn't necessarily, in most cases actually, we played separate games, I think, for this last month. So it's going to be kind of a one-sided thing, but we're going to go game by game and just go through it, have a little discussion, take folks down a trip down modern gaming lane. On that note, folks, stay tuned. Drop us a like if you like this type of stuff. Leave a comment if you want to talkie. Subscribe for future content and...
hit the bell.
Yeah, that thing. And on that note, bam! All right, so welcome back. We are going to talk to you about some games we're playing. What's the game you've been playing lately? Let you take us down the first road.
Well, the first game that comes to mind is a little game on the Xbox called Call of the Sea. It's actually a quite interesting little puzzler. It plays a little bit like a Myst type of game where you're going about this small little island solving puzzles. The narrative is kind of interesting, though. It kind of takes a little bit of a Lovecraftian spin. It has influences like Call of Cthulhu, but also, interestingly enough, things like Del Toro's The Shape of Water is a heavy influence on the game. And it's kind of interesting to see a game that is so puzzle focused. It's kind of this lonely world where you're just solving puzzles. And that's one of the things I like about puzzle games is there's no things to blast in the face. There's no...
What? Sorry, I had to make a puzzle game joke. That was my puzzle game joke.
So if you have a small brain, it might put you to sleep. But yeah, for those who like puzzlers, it is definitely highly recommended. I haven't beaten it quite yet, so I can't really give a full review. But the puzzles are actually a little bit of a head scratcher, which is always fun because it makes you feel smart when you just solve it. Or resort to a Google search, which I have never done.
And
ever.
Yeah, kind of cheapens those puzzles.
Yeah, I try not to Google it, but sometimes you just
You know what's funny about that type of stuff is how much Google cheapens. You guys don't know, you youngins, but I remember when I was playing, there's, when you play a game, like Resident Evil games, like the new ones, the remakes or whatever, were kind of a good example of this, where, you'd be going through the levels, and you'd hit, all these, chests and things that need codes, and, I don't know about you, but I'm never looking for those codes. I don't give a flying about those codes, so I always look them up. I'm like, yeah, okay. And the funny thing was in The Last of Us 2, I actually got to laugh because they kind of troll you in that game. Oh, this is the game I played. This is a game of beat. This is definitely a rant, but I have to throw it in there because it's kind of funny. They troll you when you do that. Ellie will be like, "Oh, funny how I just know this," in weird, really sarcastic comments. I was
that is cool.
Okay, made me chuckle. Anyway, sorry, I totally derailed. But it's a good build into what I was playing, which was not Last of Us. Actually, it was a terrible build up because it was none of those games that we just mentioned.
So what are you playing?
That's a good question, my good man. Actually, I'm gonna jump in with the game that I've been playing. Not the most. I don't want to friggin' just all over the. That's me spilling pop, by the way. Not any. Get your minds out of weird places. I've been I'm in this mood to play the Tomb Raider games because I actually, the funny thing is I've played the original when it first came out, the definitive edition.
Yeah.
When that came out for PS4, I played it and I really liked it.
Or you mean the first of the new?
The first of the new. I played all the old ones back in the day, so I have that under my belt. But the new ones I don't really. And but the funny thing is that I played the first one of this brand new series, and I generally liked it. I thought it was like pretty Uncharted, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I think I came off the back of playing that, so maybe I wasn't as taken aback, but I still liked it. I thought it was a really well done game for its time, and I was more excited about Rise of the Tomb Raider. But I've been really excited about Rise of the Tomb Raider multiple times in my life, but for whatever reason, when I go to play it, I get interrupted. Like, I either sell the system before I finish it, or I lose the service. Like I had, when I first tried Game Pass, is when I first started playing Rise of Tomb Raider on my Xbox, and then I didn't want Game Pass anymore, and so I lost it, and I never finished it. So I made a pretty concerted effort when it went like $7 on PSN to kind of like, okay, I'm going to buy this. I'm actually going to try to beat it. So that's the first game for me, Rise of the Tomb Raider. One thing I will say about it does, I haven't beaten it, because obviously they're the games that we're playing, but first impressions, or at least early impressions of well, actually, I shouldn't say early, because I'm like halfway through. I always get halfway through. Anyways, this time I'm going all the way, folks. But they do a cool thing where they get back to like raiding tombs, which you think was like would be a thing that all of them do. But I felt like the first one was really much more about like showing off the new gameplay elements and kind of like just story establishing, that they never really dived into like tomb raiding like they did in this one. And this one they really amped it up. Like there's tombs to discover, and they're always like puzzles and cool like this is the kind of puzzle game that I really, really enjoy. Just mandatory just now. Anybody that mentions puzzle, just pretend to sleep. But it is actually a puzzle game that I really enjoy, because like it's well, first of all, I'm just a huge fan of third-person action games. So like if they can put that in that type of, it's not going to be like an okay game with me. But like I even liked it in the original. I don't know how much of the old Tomb Raiders you played, but it was all about tomb raiding. And then every now and again you get like stiff gunplay, and you shoot a tiger or something. I remember there being tigers and weird animals and stuff.
Dinosaurs. I remember the T-Rex in one of them for some reason.
Things that fight you. Anyways, point being is that was a lot about tomb raiding and puzzles in those games, and I'm glad to see them return to form. That's really cool for me. I'm happy with this. I will beat it, because I do enjoy the series, and I did buy Shadow at Christmas. I remember mentioning that. I got it for $20 right before it went free on PSN.
Son of a.
But anyways, neither here nor there. I still need to beat these games. So that's the first one on the list, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Speaking of beat, the next one on my list, and return to form for that matter, the next one on my list is a little tiny game called Doom Eternal. It came out with DLC recently called The Ancient Gods. Part 1 and Part 2 just dropped recently. I am trying to make my way through The Ancient Gods Part 1. I say try because it's how shall I put this delicately? Extremely freaking difficult. It definitely tasks you as a player to get good. But I am very much so enjoying the demon slaying, the actual, and this is kind of a controversial take, but I actually am quite enamored with the story. Screw you, John Carmack. I actually think story is important to games.
John Carmack's going to come to your house, slap you down.
Probably.
No, yeah, I like Doom's story actually too, because it's not like it's incredibly deep, but it's very serviceable to what it needs. It's exactly what it needs to be.
Yes.
Is essentially what it is. And like there are some epic moments, even in the the original part of the game, where I remember one point he turns around, just like
Titan is smashing through.
Just the story bits, even the interactions he's given, like the things that he has to say, always feel so impactful. Like even though it's just this is an action oriented story, and it's not trying to take away from that, but it plays into it so well. It's so good. Yeah, definitely a good pick. Next one on my list is kind of a combination of two games, and I know we talk about these games a lot, but Demon Souls and Dark Souls 2. And it's more along the lines, I'm just playing it with a friend of mine, Derail, who just got a PS5, and I encouraged him to do that, and now that he's forsaken his Xbox ways and has joined the dark side, it's awesome. And, he's a huge Demon Souls, Dark Souls fan, so it gave me a good excuse to pick up Dark Souls 2, which we had been playing slightly before we got the PS5. It sort of morphed. The reason why I bring both these games in, we were playing Dark Souls 2 through that, because that's the one that I haven't beaten yet, for whatever reason. Oh, it's because we tried to beat it that one time.
Yes.
Then didn't, because you went away back where you lived. And so he got a PS5, and then it morphed into Demon Souls, because Demon Souls is really cool.
Did they change the multiplayer in Demon Souls? Is it like the more modern Dark Souls kind of thing?
Yeah. It's awesome, man. Like that game, I actually regret when we did our reviews, I totally forgot about that game, which makes no sense because I loved it. And as soon as I picked it up, started playing it again, I was like, oh my god, because I'm doing New Game Plus now. And we're kind of laughing because I'm like overpowered in the game right now. And typically, Derail and I, the joke is that we're terrible at PvP. Like whenever somebody would come in, it'd be like us two versus one, and we'd get wrecked every time, like no matter what. But in this round, I don't know what it is. If we both just upped our game, we haven't like thumbs up to Derail me. We have not lost a single invasion since we started playing both of those games. Like so, I've been invaded. I don't know what's weird too. I never seem to get invaded in normal game. It's New Game Plus. I'm getting invaded like every 2 seconds now. It's like we both started because he's underpowered. He's not New Game Plus, but he can help me. But what's kind of funny is that he barely can do any damage. He can't really do anything. So he joins my game and he helps like stun them if I'm about to take a hit or something. But his damage is not really that impactful yet until we beat his game. But the problem is, in order for me to help him, I have to get to the same area in New Game Plus. Anyways, it's been a challenge. But that game should have been on my review. Should have been on my award list. I loved it. It was so good. Like it is a fantastic. It's probably the best remake I've ever played. Yeah. So that's two story combo there for me. And yeah.
So the next one on my list is a VR game that actually just dropped for free for anybody who has a PlayStation 4 or 5. You do need a VR headset to play this game though, so just note that. But it's a little game called Moss. It's a really interesting game where you play as a tiny little adorable mouse going through this weird fantasy land, and it's a platformer, but it's kind of a different kind of platformer since it adds the VR element. So as you play, your character is basically kind of like God, and you can kind of manipulate the environment to give the little mouse platforms to jump on and solve puzzles so you can get further. But as you control through the controller, you're controlling the mouse, so it's a little bit like kind of pat your head and scratch your belly kind of thing. But it is a very interesting, very charismatic, and very adorable little game. I've only played so far the levels that were in the demo. But since it's free, and that is my favorite price tag, I do recommend it. It'll be free, I think, all of this month. PlayStation is offering a host of games that are free as their play at home initiative.
Horizon Zero Dawn was one.
Yeah. So if you don't have any games and you don't have any money either, well,
you can play for free.
You can still play for free. So yeah, I highly recommend Moss
Virtual
I
reality.
see what they did there. Moss VR as one of the free ones.
The other game on the list that I've been playing is Outriders, the demo. I'm specifically going to say the demo because it obviously comes out this week, but what I've played so far is the demo. I'm included because I actually played through the whole thing. I have a lot of friends. My friend Rob was like, you got to try this. This could be the new multiplayer shindig, and it's pretty good. I'll be honest, it's kind of like a Gears of War meets Destiny meets something by Square Enix. Like it's really an odd mix. Bulletstorm, yeah. There's like that, and so like it's got an odd mix, but oddly enough, it kind of works. You played a little bit of it too, and it's kind of interesting to see this game come to life. It's a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter, which is one of my favorite. Like I just like third-person games. That's like my jam. For whatever reason, that perspective is like gets me. Yeah. I don't know what it is about a perspective. I know some people only play first-person shooters or whatever, but like third-person action, third-person shooting, and so I really dig it. Like I played the Trickster, and he was kind of like this morphing all over the place, sort of jumping into the ether, and killing things and shooting and stuff. So I'm definitely down to try it. It seems to have a pretty, like some of the better qualities of all those games I just mentioned. It's kind of has like what feels like the cleaner elements of like Destiny's multiplayer aspects, which I thought was probably its strongest suit. Obviously story wasn't, but I would say like its strong suit was kind of like how easy it was to just jump in and play with friends. Gears of War definitely has like controls a lot like Gear, even from going into the cover and like popping out of stuff, and which I was a fan of Gears, and and then it has oddly enough a story that Square Enix could have produced.
Although I will say
Bulletstorm influence.
Yeah. Although I will say if you're kind of going in blind. The beginning chapter is a little bit on the dull side, but I will say this: the way that they change the script and pull the rug out from under you is worth it.
At first, you're like, "What the heck?" And then you're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
And it seems like a really fun game. Like it has a good like kind of rhythm to it, and if the combat stays interesting, I don't know how it's going to scale with multiplayer because I didn't play multiplayer. I played it single player. But I could see how it could be kind of fun and interesting. So I'm going to give it a try. I'll probably pick it up. It's a PS5 game, which is another reason.
When does it drop?
Thursday. Another good excuse to buy it. Something to play on the system. For some weird reason, that's a hard thing to get these days. Yeah, so that's it for me. What's the next review?
The next one for me is a little game for people who hate themselves. It's a game called Super Meat Boy Forever. Pretty much. For those who don't know, the Meat Boy series is a game that is notoriously difficult. It's a platformer where you play as a little chunk of meat, hence the name, trying to go through these obstacle courses of absolutely insane, deathly proportions to save. Usually it's your little meat wife or whatever.
Meat wife. Meat baby.
Yeah, and Super Meat Boy Forever, it's your little meat baby. That sounds really weird. But anyways, and it's basically the sequel to Super Meat Boy. It changed it up quite dramatically in terms of the gameplay and the respect that it's an always run kind of thing. I don't know what you call those genres where you're always...
There's literally games like that. Like it's just a genre. It's a weird thing.
I don't even know what you call it.
Like one of the games that comes to mind was actually literally called The Runner. Like that was what it was. Yeah. It was the guy run. Weird move for them though.
It is. It plays really weird. It almost makes it less forgiving. Because if you miss a jump, you don't really have time to try it again before the screen just kind of kills you.
Maybe that was the purpose. Maybe it's just a... Also, they probably wanted to change it up. They already kind of did the little platformer thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Odd move for my part, because I'm not a really fan of the runner genre, so like I can't see myself... That's the only reason I haven't bought it. And I originally had it slated on like the pickup list, because I was like, I love Meat Boy. I liked playing it every now and again. But...
It's a very specific kind of game. You have to kind of... It's a little bit of a reaction puzzler where you kind of have to time your jumps. And
yeah. Just bugs me, people. The last one on my list is the one that I'm like completely enraptured with. I've done nothing but play this game since I bought it. I've literally... I play it like almost every spare moment I have, aside from watching a certain show that... Pfarcus and I have kind of also adapted quickly. But like when I'm not watching that show, I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise. That's the game I'm playing. I spoiled it for all you folks. Yeah, it's Monster Hunter Rise. Now, a little preamble to this game. Both Pfarcus and I enjoyed Monster Hunter World up to a point. Like the actual core game mechanic for me was kind of interesting in World. I did like the idea of hunting. But the sell for me is hunting with your friends, and Monster Hunter World was a pain in the tuchus when it came to trying to sync up with your friends to play it. That was a huge thing for me going into this game. I kind of wanted to make sure that, that would be rectified in some fashion. It didn't need to be 100% because I still enjoyed the game enough to kind of go in and just hunt by myself. There's enough of a single player thing there in that I can get around it, but really the joy to the game, I think, is getting with your friends and just going on a hunt.
Yeah,
that's the selling appeal of that. Because I mean, those games, as you know, they're not story heavy. Although I will give this one credit, it's got more, not much, but more than usual. And they do. I always love the little campy like monster intros that they do, where it's this little like haiku poem thing where they're just like talking about like what the creature's habits are, and then it like goes into some disturbing element of how they hunt it, like, and then it shows them, and it's like the beast. And it's I love it every time it comes up. I really enjoy it. They put a lot of effort into them to make them charming and kind of fun, and their monsters are always inventive and creative. So I've had nothing but a lot of fun playing it, and I can't really recommend it enough, especially if you're a Monster Hunter fan. This I think is the best. I've played a few. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge vet of the series. Like I said, I played Monster Hunter World. It's a fair bit, but did stop because of how unfun multiplayer was.
Well, they just did this weird thing where, like, for those who never played Monster Hunter World, when you went multiplayer, if there was any story, and the story was pretty much, look, there's a new monster.
Yeah.
That was the story.
Always.
If there's any of that, it wouldn't let your friend join until you saw
Yeah,
the
even if
cutscene.
you've seen it before. Like,
Yeah.
it was really weird. Like, the way it stopped. And, like, it was always felt, like, really jagged and abrupt.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then, like, sometimes it just wouldn't work. Like, you get knocked out one day. It's really clunky, really fun. But I am happy to say that seems to be gone. Like, they separated. Basically, you have two avenues of hunts. You have, like, hunts that are single player, which you can do by yourself, which actually progress the story. And then you have hunts that you can do with friends. And they're like
village hunts or whatever?
Yeah, village hunts kind of your main story hunts. It's how your levels. It's how, and by doing those, unlock what you're able to do with others, because obviously they don't want you to get too far ahead of your skill. But once they lap, you can just do all these quests over and over with your friends. Obviously, you got it. These games have a bit of a grind, folks. So there's always a bit of like, I gotta get my next armor piece. So you're always hunting the same monsters a little bit over and over just to get the parts that you want. But it's always exciting and it's never boring because it's kind of got this sort of Dark Souls-y kind of battle system. Like, it has the same pace of Dark Souls. I think that's what really...
It's very deliberate.
Yeah, like, you gotta, like, time your attacks perfectly. The monsters... I wouldn't say the boss monsters are, like, as hard as bosses. Maybe some of them are, but the ones that I played so far are like... They're not easy, but it's, like... It's not Dark Souls level hard either, but, like, there's sort of a rhythm and a mythology... Methodology, thank you, and to the battles, and I kind of appreciate that. So I'm going to give it probably my glowing review of the day and of the month and whatever this is for just talking about games. That's my favorite one that I'm currently playing right now. It's really good. So
the next two for me are...
Take it away, Pfarcus.
I will take it away and be gone. Bye-bye! No, the next two for me are actually free on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, free on Game Pass is a bit of an oxymoron, but if you have Game Pass, they are available on Game Pass. And it's two games. I'm not usually fond of the sandbox game where you just randomly wander around and kind of that's the point of the game. I do take exception to when it's kind of like a space exploration kind of sandbox. For some reason, that always just kind of tickles my fancy, just exploring different planets and going off into the darkness and just kind of being like, bye-bye, and just sailing off into another planet.
Bye, cruel world.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're two games that kind of do a similar shtick, but do it in different ways. And it's Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky. Elite Dangerous is kind of the hard mode of the two, where like you have to actually kind of take into a factor the gravitational pull of the planets to land on them, and there's these vast empty spaces where like if you don't calculate it right, you could actually be spending like 24 hours just floating into the darkness to get to the next planet, and like it does actually require you to sit down and kind of calculate what you're doing. And for those who don't have the patience for that, there's No Man's Sky, which kind of simplifies the process, and you pretty much just click on the planet you want to explore, and then you
go there.
Yeah, you go there. There's a little bit more to it than that, but it's basically just kind of encouraging you to just wander around, see new sights, see different worlds, explore the crap out of everything, and just see what you can find. And I really enjoy that in a space kind of thing, because it's just it feels right to explore space in a video game form, because it's kind of something where you have to kind of imagine what's out there. And you know, these games do kind of take into account like solar systems and kind of how they work in a certain degree. I wouldn't say this is like, if you play this, you're ready to be an astronaut. If you want to die, maybe. But definitely oversimplify. They both definitely oversimplify things. But it's definitely kind of a fun fantasy to just kind of imagine going like Star Trek and just kind of like exploring different worlds. And yeah. And
don't wear the red shirt.
Don't wear the red shirt, because you don't die. You don't die in the ether, just floating in space alone forever. And then Cthulhu will just eat you up.
Well, I'll prove that doesn't happen anymore. People just blow them up, so. Cthulhu's a bitch.
That's another topic.
More to come.
Yes. But yeah, so if you have Game Pass, I do recommend these games if you're into kind of just exploring space and farting around. It's not necessarily a game that's for people who like to beat games, because I don't think you really beat either of these games. You just play them forever, and when you get bored...
Aren't you the guy who only likes to beat games, though?
Usually. I make exception for these two games.
I was gonna say,
Um,
taking a step right out of.
yeah, it's just if you don't know what it's one of those games where you're like,
I like to picture you like do like this montage of you, just super jacked on fucking like energy drinks, trying to beat No Man's Sky.
I can do it.
It's just like a Twitch stream that never ends. And you're just like
700 hours.
there's like all these cans, and you're just like,
I know.
space is pounding on you.
It's weird to say, but it's one of those games. These two games for me, I don't know if you experience this, but every now and then I'm like, I feel like playing a game, but I have no idea what game to play. And then I get lost in just staring at all the game options, and then I don't know what to do.
That's the story of everybody these days.
And so I just play these games
Consumerism.
because it's just you just fart around and like do whatever, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of but yeah.
Yeah, like it's hard to have focus in this freaking day and age.
What?
Yeah,
Huh?
bluebirds.
Squirrel.
Oh. Yeah, it really is. But these are the games I focused on.
These are the games I know. I know. These are the games I know.
Some of them are games.
That's
Others are also games. They all have no hands and they have no moms.
It's true. Yeah.
That's how the song goes. I am a kids and all expert.
These are the games I know. I know. These are the games I know. Anyway, that's a bit of a. So yeah.
Yeah, so folks, that's the games we're playing. This is a little bit of mini reviews. These are some games that are interesting. Some of the ones I said that aren't necessarily recent games, but Outriders and Monster Hunter Rise are. So if you're thinking of picking up some new games, you can check those out. Moss VR, I think, is new, right?
It's relatively new and it's free, so it's for everybody.
Doom
that has
Eternal,
PlayStation.
that has new DLC worth checking out. I heard that the second is also easier than the first. But you still gotta
Second
get through
verse,
the first.
easier than the
Yeah,
first.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's some new things, small things to visit, and keep it real, keep it playing, do some things,
Game on.
play some games. I'm gonna invent a saying one of these times. That's why I'm keep doing this at the end. It's like I have no idea how to end this, so I'm just like I'm gonna say something that's gonna blow your effing minds with profanity, probably. Anyways, game to infinity. That wasn't it.
I think you're just stealing Toy Story.
Probably. Anyways, folks, if you like this type of content, drop us a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Tell us some games that you're playing right now. Give us some ideas. Maybe we'll play those games.
Yeah. Or if you're playing any of the games that we're playing, say if you like them or if you think they're poop.
And then do all that stuff. And anyways, folks, on that note, stop listening to the YouTubes and go play some games.
Peace.